Hey, how's it going? So, welcome to this live stream. This is the first live stream I've done on YouTube for quite a long time, actually. Really excited to have a chat to you all and go through what we're going to be going through in this session. Essentially, we're going to be trying to make a track from start to finish. It's going to be an interesting challenge. Personally, I think a lot of people, I struggle to finish the music that I start. I don't think that's an uncommon problem. But I've been doing a bit of reading around it. It's something that I've looked into quite a lot in terms of trying to come up with strategies to finish more music. I was enrolled in a course for quite a while called Finish More Music. So hopefully there's some insights there that I can bring into what we're doing today and start getting stuff finished, start getting stuff out. And this might not be the best tune I've ever made, but the point is I want it to be finished. That is the most important part. So for the people joining us, really glad to have you all here. Just to keep you all posted, I've got my phone here where I'm monitoring the stream, so I'm going to keep an eye on questions in here. So we've got Chris, we've got Martin, we've got Ethan. Cool, so Ethan, we're going to be going into live very shortly. I'm able to share my screen by clicking just down here. Cool. So if I just do a little quick audio test, can everyone hear and sort of see me okay? Let me know in the comments how that's all looking. Let's grab a drum loop from here and play this just to make sure that we're getting a decent audio level. No, I don't think we will be at the moment. That's my bad. So, once we're set to screen cap, there we go. Cool. So you now should be hearing my voice, and you should be hearing Ableton Live coming through the screen there. So, as I say, really excited to get into this. What I would love to know is what you struggle with most out of this whole process, whether it's coming up with ideas and getting started, whether it's more the technical side of things, whether it's more the creative side of things, or whether it's something completely different. So I would say, if I were to answer that question myself, the bit that I struggle with most, as you're going to see, is arrangement. So in theory, I understand it. I know that you need to create tension and release. It's just getting stuff down and knowing where to go next with something and worrying about, is this interesting enough, or do I need to just leave it and have the confidence to let the groove play out for a while? That's the bit that I tend to struggle with personally. So I'd love to know what bits of this music production process you guys tend to struggle with. Not hearing a drum loop. Yeah, good. A bit loud. Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'll turn down the output of Ableton by 6 dB. I've still got iTunes playing. I always do that. The intro music comes from tracks that I have on iTunes so that I don't get a copyright strike on here. And I always turn the volume down but forget to actually stop playing it. So let's have another test of this drum loop to see if it's still a little bit too loud for you guys. There we go. So let me know what you think of that in terms of volume. As Chris mentioned, I reckon it's worth using headphones to get the most out of this. Let's have... Actually, I can have a listen in here. Let's have a quick listen. No, we can't because I wasn't sharing my flipping screen. What a muppet. Okay, we will get there, I promise. So, now that you can see the screen, there we go. So Chris has said the thing that he struggles with most in terms of finishing music is finding the right samples out of the millions that are out there. That is something that we're going to be going into, and I'm really, really keen to try and help you get some clarity around that. So I use reference tracks a lot, and it's definitely not something that you want to be too beholden to a reference track. But we're going to go through and try and find ways to just take what's going to suit your track best and run with it. Just another note on samples. In the description of this YouTube video, you'll see a link to Production Music Live, and that is the main sample pack that I'm going to be using, especially for the drums, also probably for some synth hits. So Production Music Live are a sample pack company that I've been using for years and years and years. So good. Just really, really high quality stuff. If I didn't have their drum sample packs, I really don't know where I would get my sort of go-to drum sounds. You can use the link in the description to go through to their samples page. That is an affiliate link, just to be completely upfront about that. I only promote products that I believe in, and I've been using these for years, and I trust them to the end of the earth. So if you want to pick up one of those packs, I would highly recommend Deep Premium Volume 1, 2, 3, or 4. That's essentially a massive drum library, which has got anything you can possibly imagine in terms of drum sounds. So really, really highly recommend that. Jump in and see if you can pick that up to be able to follow along if you feel like you need some decent drum sounds. So let's dive in and get started. So there might be periods where I'm not doing a huge amount of talking, but I am going to be monitoring this live chat. And if there are any questions, feel free to fire them in. I'm going to keep this live chat just up here. There we go. I'm going to put it in front of me there, so that I can see Chris calling me a Muppet, which is absolutely right. Cool. Let's get going. So I tend to start with the drums, I think, like most people do. And in my user library here, I think in clips, drums, if I double click on that, ooh, no, don't want to cancel it. Let's open this up. Cool, so I've got this saved, and the way to do that is I just created a bunch of audio tracks, MIDI tracks, my apologies. And what I did was loaded a sampler onto each with a drum sound in. So this is what I've just loaded. That is not what I'm going to start with. I'm going to show you how to do this completely from scratch. And then once I've got something together, that I'll show you how you could save that in the user library if you wanted to use it later on. Cool. So we've got Sam in here as well. Really good to have you. Juju, Alex Rings, and Ethan and Chris as well. So Alex got the Launchpad recently in Ableton Live 10 about a month ago. I hope you're getting on okay with that. Let me know which Launchpad you have. I'd be interested to know that. I'm not going to be using a Launchpad. I don't know, actually. We'll see how I go. I've got the Launchpad X and the Launchpad Mini here. But what I am using, if I just show you with my webcam, this is the desk setup that I have, okay? So I am using the Novation Launchkey Mini Mark III, and that is the only controller that I'm using. So that's going to be what I'm using to play in MIDI notes. Let's pop this back up here. Tidied my bedroom for this as well. You guys should appreciate that. How's the stream gone down? Just let me know if you guys can all still see and hear me okay. It's paused on my end for some reason. That could be my Wi-Fi though. So let me know if you could still sort of see and hear me okay there. Cool. The Mark II. Nice. Yeah, I had that Launchpad for quite some time. Really, really good stuff. So let's take that off the screen. and dive back into live. So you may well have seen, if you've seen me working inside Ableton before, that I like to work in a color-coded way. So let's create a bunch of MIDI tracks, because I'm going to use MIDI to make my drums, and I'm going to select all of these and make them red. I know that I'm going to have a kick drum in here. I know I'm going to have a clap. I know I'm going to have closed hat. I know that I'm going to be having probably an open hat as well. And I'll be having a snare, let's say. Then I'm going to create some audio tracks, because I'm probably going to be using a couple of shaker loops or percussion loops. I think they massively add to drum grooves, which you'll see a little bit later on, and I'll name those as and when. What I'll also do at this point, because I've got this other audio track here, I'm going to create a drum bus. So I'm going to rename this my buses, which are going to be summing a few different audio tracks. What the purpose of these will go into as we come sort of later through, once I've started creating some drums. But essentially, all of these audio tracks, or all of these tracks, are going to be sending their audio to this track just here. So if I wanted to put an EQ on all of the drums to cut out the low end, for example, or put a bit of reverb on them during a breakdown once I've cut the low end out, I just have to put one EQ on that drum bus. I'm pointing at the screen as if you can see it here. But cool. We'll come into the drum bus processing a little bit later on. All you need to really know about it, if you've got audio tracks, I'm just going to turn these to no input. But we don't want any input from my audio interface. But what we do want for all of these other tracks, audio to... Once we've loaded samplers onto these, we'll be able to do it actually. So we'll set the routing up in a second. So let's go in, and I'm trying to work out whether if I play music from Spotify, I think it's going to give me a copyright strike. So I'm not going to do that, because I don't want to get a copyright strike. But what I would be doing at this point, I would have Spotify open. And to give you an idea of the kind of vibe that I'm going for, I'll show you a couple of tracks that you can have a listen to at your end, in order to get a vibe of what I'm going to be going for. I'm going to be going for kind of vocal Toolroom kind of sounds. So if you search Maxine and have a listen to Something in Our Life, that's the kind of thing I'm going to be going for. Really solid release. That was the one that sort of kicked her into fame with the Toolroom side of things. So that is what I'd recommend having a listen to. That's the kind of thing we're going to be going for. So let's go into my kick drum samples and find a good kick drum. Let's start off with that. So I'm just dragging the sample where it says drop an instrument or sample here, and let's create the kick drum pattern. I don't really like using the pencil tool generally. I prefer using just the cursor, because then you can still click and drag and select things, whereas if you've got the pencil tool, you can't click and drag and select stuff, and it's just a bit of a pain. So here's our kick drum pattern. Always check the envelope settings here. So for example, if you listen to that now, it sounds different to how it sounds in here. If you want to turn down the volume of what's coming from these samples that you're auditioning, you can use this blue headphone dial on the master fader. That's going to turn that down. So let's turn the release up here. Actually, the decay, there we go. It's sounding a bit thumpier. What I like to do with these kick drums as well is change the filter type in the simpler down here and add some drive. Turn the volume down, because that drive adds a bit of grit. Nice. Let's drop the volume a bit. -10. Cool. One thing to note, it's really not very good practice to touch this volume fader at all. This master fader you really shouldn't be touching. So I'm going to reset it actually just for, and then I'm going to mix at a low level. So if it's getting too loud or whatever, just tell me. But yeah, I want to stress that you really shouldn't move this master fader at all. Let's have a quick look at any questions. What studio monitors do you use? I use Yamaha HS7s. Absolutely love them. I did, however, make a YouTube video recently talking about equipment for beginners, saying that you should invest in a really good pair of headphones over a pair of studio monitors. If you're working in an untreated room like I am here, studio monitors aren't going to be anywhere near as accurate as headphones will be. So I'm doing all of this on headphones because it is more accurate. So that's what I would recommend. Do you feel that using a Launchpad in a creative process like this works well? Absolutely. So I really do like using the Launchpads. The reason that I'm not using it today, I may well plug it in and start using the Launchpad X. I'm trying to learn keys at the moment. I've been having piano lessons for about a year, and I got to a stage after making music for 3 or 4 years that I chose to go in and learn music theory in a bit more depth. So playing chords in now, I like doing. What I used for 2 or 3 years as my main MIDI controller was the Launchpad Pro because it had the scale mode, and it meant that I didn't need to learn music theory. I could just select a key and I could start working in it. So there are also things like I've got drum pads here on my Launchkey Mini, and there are certain ideas that you want to play in because you can't see how you would draw them in MIDI. So it's definitely worth having a MIDI controller of some sort. Whether that's a launch key or a launch pad is down to personal preference, really. One thing that I should be doing as well, I may need to grab a pen. I'm going to try and take timestamps as to what I'm working on when. So I think I started working on drums like 4 or 5 minutes ago. So should we say from, how long's the stream been going? 19 minutes. So we'll say like, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 minutes drums. And then I'm going to put these timestamps in the description below so that if you want to come back and revisit any of these sections, you can do so. Let's turn that up a little bit. Cool. Back into the drums. As I say, fire away with any questions if you have any at any point. I was just going to ask which was better, studio monitor or headphones. I only have headphones. Headphones, I would say, unless you've got an acoustically treated room, headphones all the way. Either Beyerdynamic DT770s, they're brilliant, or if you can stretch to the budget, Sennheiser HD650s. So go and check those out. Cool. Let's do a bit of music making. So that's our kick drum. Let's find a clap. Try with that. This is totally personal preference, or listen to a reference track and see what they're using in that kind of thing. Let's go there and there. It's quite try that actually. I'm going to cut some of the low end out of this with a filter in here. Cool. Let's go for a closed hi-hat. Chris says he has a Splice subscription. Where would you recommend finding similar drum sample packs from? It's a really good question. I recommend like a two-pronged approach to samples and sample packs. I recommend having a Splice subscription, as you've got, quite rightly, because you can go in and find individual bits that you're looking for, or if, like me, you've been a member for a little while, you accumulate so many credits. I've got like 1,500 credits in my account. So if I want to start making something in a new genre, maybe, or I want a different type of pack in my genre, I can just go in and download the whole pack. I've got enough credits to do that. But what I also recommend alongside that is having a few core sample packs. And the best example of that is the one that I'm using here, Deep Premium Volume 2. If we take a look at Production Music Live's website, which you can get to from the link in the description below this video, and go to samples, I cannot recommend these drum sample packs highly enough. For house, techno, that kind of stuff, you just cannot beat the quality of these drum samples. It's like 15 euros or something like that, 20 euros. And I've used it, or you can get all of them for 50 euros. Like, I absolutely cannot recommend these highly enough. I've used them in every single track that I've made in the last few years, and that just gives you a really nice library of stuff to pull from. So there are loads and loads of kick drum samples. You're never gonna not be able to find something to use. So that's the kind of two-pronged approach that I recommend having: a Splice subscription, and also a library, like a few core sample packs that are really high quality, that just give you a starting place for things like drums. So that's what I would recommend. And as I say, definitely check out that link below for Production Music Live. They've got some amazing stuff in there. I don't have any videos to do with hip hop or rap, unfortunately. It's not something that I produce. It's something that I listen to. I listen to a lot of Logic and Kendrick Lamar, and obviously Eminem. Sort of back in the day, I was talking to my housemate about that last night, actually. But no, it's not something I've made any videos on. But if I decide to challenge myself and make something sort of outside of this genre, then I definitely would put some videos up of doing that. And one of the things that I'd recommend is having a Splice subscription, because if I decided I wanted to go in and try and make some hip hop, none of my samples really suit that, but I could go in and just get like 10 or 15 samples from Splice to help me start making some hip hop. And that's why it's really handy. So I'm looking for a closed hi-hat here, so a short one. Let's try that. It's quite harsh. We'll see how that works. Nope. I'm going to duplicate this, put some other notes in. I'm going to swing these a little bit. Just to create a little bit of human feel. And I'm also varying the velocity of these. So this red bar at the bottom does the velocity of the note. So you can hear that they're not all being hit at the same kind of, at the same hardness. If you can imagine a drummer sort of drumming, they're never going to be hitting the cymbal at the same hardness or strength each time. And another really cool thing that you can do here is come into velocity, drag this onto, actually no, pitch. That's a cool one. Drag pitch onto the hi-hats. And then a random. Actually, no, that's not working very well. I'll have to review what that was, but I saw this quite cool tip from a YouTuber called Elephant, who does really cool Ableton tutorials about like varying the pitch every kind of hit. So I like that pattern, but I'm not 100% sold on the sample. Try that. No, that's worse. Cool, so I just brought the sustain all the way down there on the simpler and tried to make it a little bit shorter and snappier. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to come into the samples and where do I have some good top loops? Vengeance, actually. They've got some good top loops. So top loops are drum loops which don't have a kick, and typically they don't have a clap in them either. So if I play my drum loop and then I click on these, I can audition them in time. There we go, that's definitely adding something to it. God, that was loud, sorry about that. So that does instantly add something to the drum loop. The thing that you have to be careful of is that these Vengeance packs, which I got from a website called REFX, is it com? Yeah. So they make Nexus. Swear they also make Vengeance. So these look horrendous. Like they look like something out of the 90s, which yeah, it doesn't look great. But I can tell you now, they are absolutely fantastic samples. Loads and loads of people use them, and I've actually come across 3 or 4 tracks now that have used the same loop from a Vengeance pack. So you do have to be careful with it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take that out, and instead I'm going to try and build something myself. What I am conscious of doing is I'm only going to spend about another 10 minutes doing the drums in this section. Then I'm going to get them through into the arrangement view, lay out a bit of a foundation, and start cracking on with some more sort of creative stuff. I don't want to get too bogged down in the details of this at this point, because you can just get bored with this kind of stuff and be tweaking endlessly. So what I want to find is a shaker loop, because they're pretty generic. Like, you're not going to recognize a shaker loop from one sort of pack to the next. Let's have a look what I've got in here. Let's go for that one, actually. That's kind of tambourine-y, isn't it? So I'm going to make that. Let's make a new MIDI track. Shaker. And this is the only thing that I use the pencil tool for when I'm drawing in MIDI. Cool, so that's very loud at the moment, obviously. But what I'm going to do, you may or may not have used Groove files before. Really, really highly recommend them. They are just a quick way to make things sound a little bit less robotic. So what I've done is I've clicked, let's test out this zooming thing. If I do this, does that go really weird on the screen or the stream? So I've clicked that little sort of swap button there, and I'm going to come into MPC, and I want 16 swing, and let's preview a few of these. Cool, I'm going to drag that in, and then do commit. Select all these notes and make them a bit shorter. And what you can see is that some of these notes have been slightly shifted off the grid now to give it a bit more human feel, and it's varied the velocity. So I'm going to change the velocity of these, a few of these manually. Make it kind of wavy. There we go. So that's just going to be kind of sitting in the background, and hopefully add something to it. So if I play it with and without that. I'm not 100% on that sample. This is an insight into... I'll try that one. Yeah, I think I prefer that. Cool. Let's find a nice open hat. You will be doing well to drag me away from the 909 hi-hat, to be fair. But I'm sure they've got... There we go. That's all I need for my open hi-hat. Okay, so what I'm going to do at this point, because I want to put some reverb on these drums, what I'm going to do is I've just clicked on reverb send A. I'm going to delete Ableton's reverb and I'm going to put my own reverb on. Now this can be, you can either leave the Ableton reverb, I'll show you two options here actually. We'll start with the Ableton one. So come into audio effects, reverb. Let's try and find special. I want quite a short reverb for small dark room. Let's go for that. Drums room. Let's go for that. So I want a fairly small sort of short reverb that doesn't go doo and sound like you're in a cathedral or something. I want a short, reverb for the drums. Let's pop that on there and turn it up on the clap. So I've just put that onto send A, and let's turn up send A on the clap. Okay, so that is too much reverb on the clap. I just want to get the sound of the reverb right. So a good rule of thumb for reverb is turn it up until you can hear it and then dial it back ever so slightly. So if I solo the drums room here, you might be able to ever so slightly hear that. Okay, so we just want a little bit of reverb on those. That's a taste thing. That's not too bad, actually. Because it's not a long if it was a long reverb, it'd be getting in the way of the next clap and whatnot. So it's nice to have it fairly short. Actually, let's go for it. There we go, that's sounding nice. Now, I want to get some percussion in there. I used this trick yesterday. I started on another track yesterday that I'm really, really excited about. But I'm going to show you my MIDI trick, which you may have seen if you're in the Music Production Explained Facebook group. You may have seen me posting about this yesterday, but I think this is a really cool way to get drums and sort of percussion sounds to fill out your percussion sounds. So let me make a note of this timestamp. We're about 40 minutes. 40 minutes drum perk sampler. Cool. So I want to fill out the percussion in this track. It sounds very bare at the moment. We need a lot more energy. So I'm going to come into my sample pack, and Production Music Live absolutely smash it with their percussion. So I'm going to come down to these ones that are snap. These are just awesome. So I'm going to drag a bunch of these into a drum rack. And I selected multiple by just clicking one, holding shift, and pressing one further down. Stick these in as well. Cool, then what I'm going to do, create a MIDI clip and put a note on each of these. I'm going to select them, hold down Alt or Option, drag these up so that we're covering the whole thing. Now select all of those and do legato. And that's going to sound crap to start with. They're all just going to play it once. Not what we want. What I want them to do is repeat in a 16th note pattern, like a ticka 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 ticka, that kind of pattern. So let's go to MIDI effects and arpeggiator. Drag this onto the drum rack track, and where it says rate, I'm going to change that to 16th. I tend to click on it and use the up and down arrows on my keyboard. That's the easiest way to do selections. Clicking and dragging can be a little bit difficult. Set the style to random, and then let's have a listen to this in solo. Then with the rest of the drums. So that adds loads and loads of percussion into what you're doing. So what I'm going to show you is I don't want a note to be played on every 16th note. So I'm going to add in something that's going to randomly take a note out here and there. And the way to do that is come to random in the MIDI effects also, drag that in front of the arpeggiator and put the chance up to maybe 20%. There we go. And sine, we want sub because we want it to be subtracting a note here and there. Cool. Is that the value actually? I'm just reading the thing in the bottom left, using the sine switch issue. Subtracting value. Cool. So now whenever you what it's doing is it's changing the MIDI note that's being played, and it's shifting the MIDI note that's being played outside of the range that we've got. So effectively we're missing out some notes, which is perfect. What I'm going to do now is create another MIDI track. And I'm going to record the output of that arpeggiator onto this MIDI track. So MIDI ins, we want that to be from drum rack 7. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit record on this clip. Oh, no, it stopped. Let's keep recording. Cool, so what I'm then going to do is take this MIDI clip. This is just a MIDI recording. There's nothing actually playing on this track. I'm going to drag this back onto the drum rack track. And what I'm going to do is, was it this one or this one? Yeah, this one. I'm going to turn off the arpeggiator and the random and just listen to those recordings. What I'm listening for is just a bit of percussion that sounds cool, and you'll see what I mean. So let's have a listen through to this. That do-do-do-do. That's cool. Right, so this is what I mean. Where these notes are playing, there's no sample on it. So you can see where the gaps are. Awesome, that's more helpful. So if I take these away, we can see where we've got gaps in the rhythm. That could be cool. That do-do-do-do-do-do. Cool. Let's take out these first bits. Take out that and that. Let's loop that section. Cool. I like that. I'm going to leave it in. I'm going to apply the groove file. And it's moved a few of these off of the grid, which is cool. Let's change the velocities. Nice. So I'm going to change this now to percussion. Can get rid of this track that we were recording onto, and that can just be perc. So something that really makes the kind of Toolroom sound, that like euphoric kind of vibe that they have going on in a lot of their tracks. Like if you listen to Mark Knight DJ sets, for example, it's all like anthemic, kind of like really high energy house music. This is currently quite subdued, so there's a couple more bits that we can add in here. I'm not going to worry about a snare drum. I'm actually going to change this to be a ride cymbal. Now let's find a ride just to pick the energy up, kind of thing. Crash ride. Let's go for that one. So definitely need to turn the release up on. I'm going to EQ that straight away. Bring the high end out and cut out the lows. And what I'm also going to do is sidechain that to the kick to give it a little bit of a pumping effect. So what I mean by that is if we listen to the ride at the moment, I want it to duck in volume when the kick drum plays. So I've loaded a compressor onto the ride. Let's turn on the sidechain. Select input from the kick. Nice. That ride really does pick up the energy. If we take it out, so what I'm going to do at this point is a tiny bit of work on the drums in terms of level balancing them, and then I'm going to show you what I would typically do to the drum bus. Actually, let's go for a loop. Let's try and find percussion loop. I don't really like those. Let's try them, but I like what it's doing, but I don't like the sound. That could work. Actually, no. Not feeling that, Toolroom. What else have we got? Maybe that. I'm going to take the low end out of it using an auto filter. Might just use the first half. There we go. That's sounding all right. Let's pause there with the drums. Schwamb, yo, how's it going? Good to have you here. So, that can be perk loop. Let's rename that loop. Cool. So what I'm going to do now. Sure, I like that. I'm just going to have a quick listen on my speakers. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Dope. So, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to select all of these. I'm going to bring the volume down to 0. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the kick up until it's at about minus. I'm going to be mixing a little bit quieter for you guys because it's quite loud on the stream. Or actually, I can turn computer audio down in here in OBS. Cool. Right. I've turned the computer audio down in OBS by 6 dB. So hopefully that means what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get the kick drum up to about between minus 12 and minus 10 on this master fader. It's not a strict rule. It's just how I tend to mix in terms of volume, or it's how I tend to work in terms of volume when I'm writing. So I'll explain by doing. It's loud, boy. Minus 13. That'll be fine. Then I'm going to bring the clap up until it sounds balanced to me, not to a certain level. The kick drum is the only one that I do to a certain level, just to set the stand for the rest of it. And then the rest of these things that I'm going to be bringing the faders up one by one on, I'm just doing it until it sounds balanced to me. I have a really bad habit of making my kick drum too loud, but go for the loop. A bit more low end out of the clap. Maybe an EQ. Don't get too caught up. Cool. So that sounds balanced to me. Revival of hip hop. This is house music. So now what I'm going to show you is what you'll hear quite a lot in house tracks, especially people like Toolroom, like similar kind of genres. You'll hear that like the low end comes out of the drums in breakdowns and stuff like that. I achieved this effect using a drum bus. So I'm going to set this up now. At the moment, that I'll delete that and I'll do this from scratch for you. So falling into that thing of constantly tweaking, which I need to stop. So I can do more fine details, EQing, that kind of stuff when we come to a bit of a mixing stage later. We're an hour in almost, and I've got some drums down, so definitely need to crack on. I think this is probably going to end up going for a few hours. That's my guess. So 1 hour. Drum bus. Drum bus processing. So I'm going to create an audio track like I just had, but just showing you how to do it from scratch. And I'm going to call this drum bus. And I put buses in capitals. It's just an organization thing for me. The next thing that I want to do is make sure that audio from is set to no input. I'm only doing it, actually. I'm going to set my audio device to no input. So that's it. The only reason I would need an input there is if I was recording a microphone, and I'm not doing that. So what I want to do now, I'm going to select all of these tracks by holding down Shift and selecting them all like that. And where you see audio 2, I'm going to select drum bus. Okay. Now, when I play this project, we're not going to hear anything. What we are hearing is the reverb. We're hearing the reverb because these tracks are still sending to the reverb, but we're not actually hearing the drums themselves. What we need to do is set this to in. Okay? Now I can solo this drum bus track, and we're going to hear all of the drums. That's soloed. So what I'm going to do is show you how the processing that I use to cut out all of the low end from the drums, but there are a couple of little tweaks that I do which I think make a massive difference. So I'm going to drag an EQ on here and cut out some low end there. with number 2, I'm going to boost here. And what I'm also going to do is add in an auto filter purely because I want to add that drive that I get. Let's take that off. I want to add the drive. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to group these. So I'm going to select the EQ, also select the auto filter, right click and do group. And that puts these into an audio effect rack. So I can turn both of these devices on and off using this by turning the audio effect rack on and off. Okay. So you can hear that we get quite an increase in volume, which isn't really what we want at this stage. So I take the highs down a little bit. Just pop my phone on charge so I can keep an eye on all of your comments. I've turned the drive up because that adds some crunch, but then at the end, I'm going to add a utility. And I'm just going to use that to drop the volume by -4 maybe. And actually, I am going to use this auto filter to cut a little bit of the highs when I do this as well. Actually, no. What I will add on here is I'm going to use one of my favorite reverb plugins. I've got these Valhalla reverb plugins. So nice. So I'm going to drag the plate reverb onto here. And in presets, I'm going to come to small, titanium short wide drums. I'm going to turn the mix down. This is like wet and dry. Such a delay there. Side. There we go. So I'm going to rename this rack drums breakdown. And because this is massive, I'm going to close down some of these and I'm just going to double click on these banners to shorten that down. Most of the time this is going to be off, but when I come into a breakdown, I can automate this to come on like this. Maybe. I forgot to do something in here actually, which I really, really like to do, which is audio effects, auto pan, and add it onto this percussion. Turn it up to 100%. Now, if you're wearing headphones, you should be able to hear that panning left and right. Cool. Suryan says, hey, awesome to have you here. And Valma, who has just joined the stream, really good to have you here, says, how did you group all the plugins together and turn them on and off? Really good question. Let's open these back up. So, the answer is an audio effect rack. So, in audio effects, you have these audio effects racks, which you can drag on, and then you can drag plugins into these, like Dynamic Tube, like an EQ. And when you do that, you can use the on and off of the audio effect rack to turn off everything inside the rack. Okay, so I'm going to delete that one. This is an audio effect rack that I'm using here to turn on and off these audio effects, which are creating the low end coming out of the drums, like in a breakdown. There we go. Cool. So that's how I use drum bus processing in order to do that. Final thing that I'm going to do, just to see if it sounds good and whether it's worth it or not, I'm going to put a compressor, or a glue compressor if you have the right version of Ableton, onto this drum bus. I can't really hear that making a huge amount of difference. Actually, I think it is bringing everything just slightly closer together in terms of volume. Cool. Let's leave that there. Now I'm going to move on to bass. Cool, Chris. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. No worries. yes, the video will be up on YouTube for replay whenever you want. And yeah, we can go through all of this again on Tuesday for you. So that's no worries. Thanks for tuning in. So next thing that I would typically tend to work on, I did mention that I was going to do disguising my own vocals. I tried out recording some, and it didn't sound very good at all. I am going to do a separate video on that. I just need a little bit more time to work it out. I didn't want to rush it just for the sake of doing it. So, again, I've got some vocal samples from different places. I've got this Toolroom vocal pack. Let's have a look at some of the stuff in here. The reason that I'm going for a vocal now, we haven't got anything melodic in the track yet. What we've got is just drums, and there's no bass line, there's no nothing like that. So what I'm trying to do is work out what key I want to write this track in. And in order to do that, I'm going to use the vocal to guide that decision. So let's try and find a vocal that I like.
Reflection in the night, I pray for you. We gon' shine. Maybe take me down.
Can you guys hear these okay?
We gon' fly. We tired of. We gon' fly. We gon' fly.
That sounds a lot like.
We gonna lay our love on the line. We gon' fly. We gon' fly.
Let's use those two vocal samples. So first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to start working in the arrangement view now. And there are a few ways to get your clips across from the session view to the arrangement view. What I'm going to do is have all of these clips playing by using the scene launch button here. You can also do that on a launch pad with the buttons coming down the side. I can show you that with my Launch Key Mini. This is the scene launch button just up here. Cool, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this record button at the top after I've pressed stop just to get everything back to the start. I'm going to press this record button, and this is the arrangement record button. What that's going to do is record everything that's happening in the session view over into the arrangement view. Cool. Nice. Where do I get good vocals pack for vocal chops and stuff? It's a really good question. I've got this cool pack from Toolroom, Vocal All-Stars. The thing to be careful of is that lots and lots of producers use these. I would highly recommend finding a singer and just paying for a day in something like a Pirate Studios. I think they're everywhere here in the UK. I think they might be in the US as well. I'm not 100% sure. Or even just record in your bedroom. Just get them to just record loads of random stuff, and you can chop it up and work with it. And it doesn't need to be high quality. So there's a producer called Chris Lake, who a lot of people know as being allegedly a ghost producer for Fisher, who did Losing It and all those massive tracks. All of the vocals that he did an interview and said all the vocals that I've used in my last 3 or 4 tracks, I recorded through the inbuilt microphone in my MacBook. So you really don't have to have a high quality setup for this. That's what I would recommend. Just get some originally recorded samples. I'm going to be using them from a pack because I'm probably not going to be, releasing this song. I just want to show you how to work with this kind of stuff. And especially for practice, just getting used to working with vocals, use these sample packs. So websites like Loopmasters and Sample Magic are great places for this. So Loopmasters. You can go into let's just type vocals. There you go. And then you can refine them by genre. So acid house vocals. I wonder what they're like. So you could go tech house. Essential house one shots. Percussive minimal. This looks good actually. See what it sounds like, and then you can demo the tracks. That's the wrong pack. We want this one. Oh, I don't think this has vocals. Oh, it does. Nice. Yeah, it does sound good, but not exactly what we're after. I'd go for a vocal pack, so something like... Oh, that's just house one shots. So a lot of these, yeah, don't actually look like they've got... Pause, please. Vocals in, but I know there's one called Ultimate Vocals. Format, can you... Let's go. Okay, cool, yeah. There we go. So picking vocals out of here is going to be your best shot, and don't be too specific about the genre. So soul house or soulful vocals work really nicely in house tracks. That's the birth of house music was taking samples from other genres and using them. So dive in and grab one of these packs. That's the best place, at least to start, and then recording your own, you're going to get more original stuff. Okay? Awesome. What are people saying? Yeah, that's exactly it. Just record yourself, get them to record ad-libs and just random bits and bobs, and it gives you access to vocals that no one else has, which, from an originality perspective, is fantastic. Cool. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit this arrangement record button, and that's going to record what's happening in the session view into the arrangement view. And the arrangement view is this view, just here, which might look a bit more familiar to you if you used other bits of software like Logic or Pro Tools, anything along those lines, maybe Cubase. So, let's hit arrangement record. It's recording my drums through into here. I'm going to launch an empty scene to stop this. Did I do that at the right time? I think so. Yeah, cool. That's 8 bars. So you'll see that this is all grayed out at the moment. That tends to throw a lot of people. So all you need to do, the problem here is you can only be listening to one view at a time. You can't be listening to the loops in the session view and what you've laid down in the arrangement view. That would be confusing. You can listen to one or the other. Currently, we're listening to the session view because we had clips playing, and the arrangement view is grayed out. What we need to do is activate the arrangement view by pressing this orange button up in the right. Boom. There we go. Everything is ungrayed out and activated. Why don't I program directly into the arrangement part? Yeah, really good question. A lot of people do. I just really like working in the session view in terms of putting loops down. It's totally horses for courses. It doesn't matter which one you do. It's whatever you learn how to do first is probably what you're going to stick with doing. That's why I stick with doing that. What I like doing is working in the arrangement view just to get the ideas, the session view, sorry, just to get initial ideas down, and then move into here a little bit later on. But the ultimate answer is it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to make all of these a little bit smaller. I'm going to duplicate this out. So Command D to duplicate. So we've got 32 bars of that. Then Ooh, go away for a second. Insert audio track. Oh, that was almost the right color. I work in a very much color-coded fashion just to keep everything organized in my project. Vocals are always yellow. So vocals. And then let's grab those vocal samples.
We gon' fly. We gon' fly.
Oh, that's loud.
We gon' fly.
Sounds crap at the moment, very much out of time. We'll go in and fix that. And then lay our love.
We gonna lay our love on a line.
Definitely need to speed her up a bit, don't we? So that's all looking well and good. If you have any questions or comments, please pop them down in the comments section of this stream. Really, really good to have all of you here. I would love to know whereabouts in the world you're watching from. We've got people from Italy. We've got people in the UK here. Valma's, what was Valma saying? No, base is always red. No, base is blue. Base has got to be blue. It's it's got the same amount of letters. Starts with the same letter. Base has got to be blue. I'm sorry, I've got to disagree with you there, Valma. So it's obviously just the way that I work. I really hope that doesn't upset you so much that you have to turn the stream off. So, when I get to this stage and I've picked out my vocals, I come into the arrangement view, but I probably will end up going back to the session view, and we'll run through why that is. But first of all, let's click on these.
We gonna lay our love on a line.
So that sounds rubbish at the moment. I've just turned on warp on and off here. So I double clicked on the audio file, turned warp on and off, and it's now warped to what looks like the right tempo. Let's have a look at this. I think it's still slightly behind. So I'm looking at these transients and they're not quite hitting on the grid. But let's have a listen.
We gonna lay our love on a line.
Not terrible.
We gonna lay our love on a line.
I'm just going to make it a bit tighter by dragging that all down.
We gonna lay our love on a line.
Wicked. Now, one of my favorite shortcuts in Ableton Live is Command or Control J, which is consolidate. So if I wanted to take this, copy it, start working in the session view again, and paste it into here, and I set it to loop, let's have a listen to why this is an issue.
We gonna lay our love on a line. We gonna lay our love on a line. We gonna lay our...
It's not in time. Okay, so what we want to do, if I want to work with it in the arrangement session view, or I just want to be able to sort of duplicate it and loop it, I need to make this a full 2-bar loop. And I can do that by highlighting 2 bars, including the sample, and right click, consolidate, or Command or Control J. There we go. That's made a new audio file, which I'm going to just rename Lay Our Love.
We gonna lay our love on a line.
Dope. So that I could then take back into the session view. Could copy, paste.
We gonna lay our love on a line.
I didn't set it to loop. Need to select loop just here, and you can see that that's a 2-bar loop now, so it's going to loop perfectly.
We gonna lay our love on a line. We gonna lay our love.
That's not quite on the start, that first one, is it? So you can use these markers to drag things back. Now, because I don't want to drag everything, I'm going to create a marker here and drag just this back.
We gonna lay our love on a line. We gonna...
It doesn't sound very nice, does it? Maybe I need to do it like right at the start.
We gonna lay our love on We gonna lay our
Ugh.
we gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna
What is going on there? What have I done?
we gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna
I'm going to redo that in the arrangement view. I think I know why it is. Actually, no, I'm not sure.
we gonna lay our love on the line.
I think I'm starting to get it. Nope.
We gonna lay our love on the line.
Wicked. That sounds better. So, here's a really good point. You can see that this is slightly past where the bar is, and this is slightly before, but that's where we want it.
We gonna lay our love on the line.
So we'd almost want to loop it like this.
We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna lay our love on the line.
Cool, that's looping nicely. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this into the session view again. And I'm going to move the start marker, which is where the loop begins, to here.
We gonna lay our we gonna lay our love on the line.
And again, I've forgotten to loop it.
We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna lay our love on the line.
Okay, I'm going to set up another return so that I can make a reverb for this vocal. Insert return track. And you can use Ableton ones or any other third-party reverbs that you like. I'm going to use Valhalla Vintage Verb because it's absolutely gorgeous. Just see what I fancy. Vocal plate. What's that saying?
We gonna lay our love on the line. 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 We
Right, touch
gonna
longer.
lay our love on the line. We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna lay
So what I'm doing here is I'm taking the low frequencies out of the reverb. So if you have a listen to it when this low cut is down at 10 hertz, which is very low, what you're able to do is bring that up. So have a listen to the difference. There's a lot of low end in the vocal. And I'm also going to use this high frequency to turn up the high frequencies in the reverb.
our love on the line. We gonna lay our love on the line.
Cool. Right. Falma saying thing that happened to me yesterday when using a sidechain is that the compressor clicks. Yeah, that does change. So I don't tend to worry about the sidechain clicking. The reason is 9 times out of 10 the kick drum's going to be playing at the same time and you don't hear the click, so it doesn't really bother me too much. One way to get around that, if you wanted to invest in a tool that helps you get over that, is Exafer Records, the same people that make Serum, have made this LFO tool. And that is essentially turning down the volume. And there are ways to basically use that as a sidechain so that you can turn the volume down a little bit before the kick drum hits and it doesn't cause a click. Another way to do that would be... What are we sidechaining? We're sidechaining the ride, aren't we? So, if I came into the volume here, you could manually duck the volume like this. As the sidechain. So that's going to turn the volume of it down. If you don't want it to go all the way down, then so you can do it like that. Actually, if I was doing it for the ride, I'd want it to be kind of here, wouldn't I? There we go, and that's going to stop you sort of getting the clicking. I'm going to right click and clear envelope. LFO tool is a good way to do that, and volume automation is another way to do that if you wanted to. As I say, I just don't worry about it because you don't really hear the click when the kick drum's playing anyway, so I don't tend to focus on it. Okay. Sort this one out as well. Turn the warp off and on, and it should click into place at least roughly where it needs to be. Cool. So now we just need to shift that. Shift these back a touch. That's too much. Nice. Could, if I wanted to, select that and just do Command D, duplicate. That could be quite a cool effect. No, it's not as good as I thought. Probably just do that with a delay when we come to it. Something along those lines. Let's see. Right. Now what I want to do, now that we know the key that we're going to be working in, which is E flat major, we can start to put a bass line down, which is probably one of my favorite bits to do. So insert MIDI track. Bass is blue. Sorry, Valma. Rename bass, and I'm going to be using Serum, which is my favorite synth of all time. I've got a bunch of really cool presets. Audio Tent actually makes some really, really cool presets. I've got one that's like my go-to. Oh, that's loud. Sorry, I can't make it red. That would throw the whole project out of whack. So what I'm going to do, we know that we need to be using notes in the key of E flat major, as we see there, in order for the bass line and everything else to be in key with the vocals. How do we do that if we don't know what notes are in E flat major? What we're able to do, E flat major has three flats, but if you don't know music theory, you're not going to be able to do that. So come into MIDI effects, come to scale, drop this down, and we're going to come for C major because we're working in a major key. And I'm going to drag this onto the bass track. Now, the bass is essentially the same as the root note, and we're going to change that to E flat or D sharp, which Ableton will call it. D sharp. Now, what that means is any MIDI notes that I play on this bass track are going to be snapped into key. If I play a note that's out of key, it's going to snap it to the nearest note that's in key, so I can't write anything that's out of key. And that's using my launch key. So I'm pressing E flat and E here. Two different notes on my keyboard. Sorry. And it's not changing the note. It's snapping it all to be in key for me. So let's just have a jam around. I'm going to set a loop and just see what I can come up with in terms of a bass line. Key with bass lines for me is just keep it simple. You really, really do not have to overdo it with bass lines. They can be super, super simple and be really effective. What's an E flat major chord? Let's do it over this bit actually. There we go. That'll do. So, I was just playing notes there, and I wasn't recording. Nothing's been captured. Let's say I wanted to retrieve those notes. I liked the idea that I played, and I wanted to get them back. What I'm able to do is use this box just up here. So it's kind of like a square. You can hit that, and that's called Capture MIDI, and that retrieves any MIDI that you've played on a record-armed MIDI track, even if you weren't recording. So there's that bass pattern I was just playing. So what I'm going to do to get that into time is I'm going to put the grid to 16th notes, and then do select all and quantize. Cool. So that's a bass line. That was fairly simple to do. If I solo that out for you. Really, really simple stuff. What I'm going to do in order to get the balance for that right in terms of level, I've soloed the bass. I'm going to hold down Command or Control if you're on a PC, solo the kick, and play those together. The other thing that I'm going to do also is put a sidechain on the kick drum, on the bass. Sorry. So, go to compressor. I'm going to go for the glue compressor. Open up the sidechain, select input from the kick, and then let's drag that down. So you can hear a slight click there, as Valma was saying. But when you've got the kick drum playing as well, you're not going to pick up on it. That's super boomy and kind of a little bit overwhelming almost. So I can EQ. So here's an example of throwing the EQ common rules out the window. A lot of people say somewhere between 300 and 600 hertz you should cut on everything because it sounds crap. It sounds boxy and tinny. Just having a listen to this bass. I really, really like how that sounds. One last thing I'm going to do while I'm here is add a saturator. And what this is going to do is help the kick to cut through the mix a little bit more. What you need to be careful of is that you compensate for any volume adjustments. So when you add drive with a saturator, you're adding volume. We don't want to be adding volume, so you can compensate for that with the output. So let's add a few dB of drive. Okay, cool. So, got a bit of a vocal there. I'd say, let's try and find... So I'm going to try and put some chords down over the top of this. let's find. I'm just going to use the grand piano for this, which is in sounds. I've got it in my starting thing here.
We gonna fly. We gonna lay our love on the line. 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 We gonna lay our love on the line.
So what I'm going to do here is like a call and response. So the vocal is the call, and then I'm going to respond with the piano. Like I want it to go like deal deal. That's it. Cool, that's what I want. So I'm just going to draw these in.
Love on the line.
'Cause I don't think I'm going to be able to... I'll have a go at recording it. Live for you guys, and you can see how crap I am at playing the piano. Melodic things are in green, in this green. The glue compressor is modeled on the bus compressor for an old, like, from an SSL mixing desk. So on an SSL, on these old SSL mixing desks, you had the option for everything in that's coming through that desk to run through a bus compressor. And that is the bus compressor that you see just up there. That's what the glue compressor inside Ableton is modeled on. So that's the sort of theory behind it. Let's have a go. Are you playing the keys from your keyboard, or are you playing a MIDI keyboard? Good question. I have a MIDI keyboard. I've got two, actually. I've got a keyboard behind me over there, which is the Novation Impulse, which I think is actually plugged in. Try that. It's the microphone. Gonna stretch. So, yeah, it is. Where's the chord? Cool, that's what I want. I actually have a record button here on the Impulse, so let's have a go.
We gonna lay our love on the line. 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 We gonna lay our.
Okay, so I've got transport controls like play and stop on this keyboard that I've got over here, which is the Novation Impulse, which is really cool. Let's come back over. But yes, I am I also have a little MIDI keyboard in front of me here. Where was the chord? And that's the little chord progression that I was playing there. Again, you don't need to know music theory as long as you've got a scale tool, which you can go to MIDI effects, drag that on. And because it's major, we're working in a major key. I've dragged on C major, and then you can just change the root note to D sharp. Cool. That's pretty close to being in time. Was that looping? Nope. Cool. Cool. That's the one that sounds good. So I'm going to hold down Alt or Option, drag that over here, and just duplicate it across. There we go. So we've got 4 bars of that there. This is sort of starting to come together. So this is the main loop that we've got so far. I want to add some lo-fi magic to that piano riff. Baby Audio makes a couple of really cool plugins. Super VHS. Loop just. Yeah, that magic's a bit too much. But that does just sort of grit it up a little bit. What else can I use for that? Vinyl distortion. Ooh. I'm also going to use an auto filter. Cool. That's sounding really nice. When would I utilize a glue compressor versus a normal compressor? On the drum bus, for example, here, because I want to glue the drums all together, make them sound a little bit closer together in terms of volume, and glue it all together like you would use a glue compressor. That is where I would use a glue compressor. If I was compressing just the vocals on their own, I'd use just a regular compressor. So if you're compressing lots of things together on a bus, for example, or on your master output, glue compressor. If you're compressing something individually, maybe go for a regular compressor. In all honesty, I don't think you can hear the difference. I don't think I would be able to hear a massive amount of difference unless I had them side by side in a really good listening environment. So don't stress over it. Cool. Let's add some extra elements to this. I want to find like a background kind of loop. These sound really cool. Oh, yeah. Right, so I'm going to sidechain that. There's loads of low end in it. But if I just take that section, maybe. Loop that. Whoa, it's loud. Let's EQ this. Hopefully. Yeah, this might sound a bit bonkers at the moment, but hoping it will make a bit of sense. Oh, my back's starting to hurt. I don't think my posture's very good. Let's get some up. Let's put a limiter on this just for effect. That might not be the best bit of the audio file to use. Don't like that squeak. Nah, let's try find a different one. That one. Cool. Let's have a go at that.
Our love gonna last. We gonna lay our love on.
Might sound crap, but we are experimenting here. I feel like I can hear noise coming from that Super VHS.
We gonna lay our love on. We gonna lay our. We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna lay our love on the line. On the line. We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna lay our love.
Cool. That's almost like another ride symbol, really, isn't it? Effects like this I have in brown, just to keep you all up to date with my color coding. I'll call that Atmos.
Lay our. We gonna lay our love.
Nice. So if we loop that, I'll do like an on and off test for you.
We gonna lay
On,
our love on the line. We gonna lay.
off. Oh yeah, you can see where it's in and you can see where it's out, so you can judge which one you like.
We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna lay our
Ah, it's muted.
love on the line. We gonna lay our love on the line.
I like it.
Love. We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna lay our. We love on the line. We gonna lay our love on the line. We love on the line. We gonna lay our love on the line.
So the next thing I want is like a drone, and I think I've got a whole pack of drones. We're working in E flat, so we could take E and just pitch it down one. Let's try that. I want it playing quite a bit higher than that though. So if I turn it up by 12 semitones, then I'm turning it up to E, but I want it to be E flat. So if I turn it up 11 semitones, that's where we get to. This could sound horrendous, could sound good. Let's find out.
We gonna lay our love. Love on the line. We gonna lay our love.
Oh, Nav, I think you've just saved me there. I have not saved this project file yet. Let's do that. Let's call it Love on the Line. Stream. Boom. Thank you for that. I would have been... Oh, don't crash. Oh. Did anyone else just have a mini heart attack there? Because I definitely did. Thank you, Nav. Murphy, specs for a MacBook. Really good question. This is in the YouTube video that I did, Equipment for Beginners. I list out the specs. Essentially, what you're looking for is an i5 processor or more. You're also looking for 8 gig of RAM or more, and you're also looking for an SSD drive. You don't want a standard spinning hard drive because they're so incredibly slow. In this video, Ableton for Beginners, I walk through the specs. Not this one, sorry, Equipment for Beginners, my bad. Yeah, Equipment for Beginners. Go and check out that video. That's where I detail like the specs that I would recommend. And it is pretty much what I've just said there. So it's going to be i5 processor or more, 8 gigs of RAM or more, and an SSD hard drive as opposed to a standard spinning hard drive. Cool. Thanks very much, Nav. Really appreciate it. Let's dive back into Ableton. I'm not sure I like that. Nah. Nope. I'll tell you what I'm going to use. Buddy of mine, Timmy, gave me this sample. It's in C#. Nope. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. Cool. So, let's make a MIDI track. Actually, we can do this in audio. Let's make an audio track. Get the color right. Pad. Oh, flippin' heck. That was loud. Sorry about that. Still loud. So that's playing C#. Let's just double check that with a tuner. We are at 2 hours and 10 minutes. Don't know if it says on YouTube, but that's what OBS is telling me. Right. Tuner, that's what I was doing. Yeah, C#. So, we want to pitch this. If we look on here, let's put this out of the way. C# is this note here, the first of the 2 black notes, and that's the pitch that the sample's playing at the moment. We want it to be playing an E flat, so we need to pitch it up 1, 2 semitones. Semitone is a jump between a note, so we need to pitch it 1, 2, and then it's going to be playing an E flat, which is what we want. I would like to get a webcam sort of, or some sort of camera set up overhead to be able to do that stuff a little bit easier. I think that'd be cool. Rocco, how's it going? Good to have you here. We're building a track out at the moment. Just give you a little preview of where we're at. This is how it's currently sounding. This is the loop that we're working on. Cool. So as I say, we want to pitch this up by 2 semitones to get it to E flat. 1, 2, just done that in there. Let's get that nicely reverbed. And we'll also get that side chain. So I was explaining, let's use a compressor, it's easier. And the tuner is telling me that that's now playing E flat. So I did a music theory. That's clicking. So, gonna add a crossfade like that. Let's see if that fixes it. Might be the compressor, actually. Yeah, that's fine. I was thinking that the sidechain doesn't seem to be having that much of an effect. The problem was the reverb was carrying on as normal, because it's a long reverb that I've got on it. I wasn't able to. It was still sustaining. This MIDI keyboard is called the Novation Launch Key Mini Mark III. It is absolutely fantastic. Full disclosure, I do work for Novation, so I'm a little bit biased, but ooh, hit the play button on it there. It's got so many cool features on it that just make it absolutely awesome, especially for beginners. So it's got an arpeggiator on here, so if I hit ARP and hold down a few bass notes, that's just me holding one note, 3 notes, sorry. Some really, really cool features on there. It's super cheap. Highly recommend it. Cool. I do have a video where I talk about equipment for beginners, which is on my YouTube channel. So yeah, definitely feel free to check that out as well. I'm going to level with you guys. I don't think we're going to get this track finished in this time, but we will do another live stream to finish this off. It'll probably just be a part 2. This is the bit where I tend to get stuck, to be honest. This is the bit where, let's put all those up. This is the bit where, like, we've got a cool little loop together. Oh, that sounds bit naff, actually. Now I'll listen back to it. Yeah, I'm sacking that off. Changed my mind. Right. Rocco says, I'll be starting to study music production at Hearts this September. Oh, amazing. Is that Hearts as in the University of Hertfordshire? If so, let me know. That's where I went. I currently only work on Logic Pro. That's absolutely fine. If it is University of Hertfordshire, that's awesome. So, any tips for starting out? I have also made a video about this. So, the lecturers, I think, are one of the most valuable assets that you get through studying music production at university. I have two tips that are the main tips that I have, 2/3. First of all, get to know the lecturers, make sure that they know what you're interested in, what projects you have going on, authentically, not trying to get something back from it, just that the lecturers there are all absolutely awesome. So Hertfordshire, amazing. Cool. So that's where I went, and I absolutely loved it and cannot recommend it highly enough. Alex Baxter, the course leader there, is phenomenal. Really, really nice bloke, and will do everything that he can to help you kind of succeed. Rocco, if you let me know what why you decided to take music production at uni. Hopefully that can give me a little any sort of background on you, why you're studying music production at uni will hopefully help me tailor this answer to you a little bit more. So University of Hertfordshire, yeah, as I say, get to know the lecturers, people like Simon Morgan, Ross Landau, Alice Baxter, Chris Carter, if he's still there. There are some absolutely fantastic lecturers. They're all still working in the industry as well. Get to know them, and not become like a favorite, but show up, work hard, and already that's going to set you apart, because a lot of people do sack off lectures, so it's definitely good to be going. But yeah, try and get in with the lecturers. Let them know what you're about, and just say, this is what I'm interested in. If any opportunities come up or any areas to help in this way or in that way, I'd love to know. And that just puts you on their radar. There'll often be little jobs that come up, like, oh, we need someone to come and help out with a live sound event, or we need, I know this, another student on a songwriting course has come up to me and said, I want an audio engineer to help me record. If you've said, I'm really interested in recording singer-songwriters, they're going to say, oh, I've got an audio engineer who wants to start recording singer-songwriters. So getting friendly with the lecturers, and also people on other courses, so songwriters or filmmaking students will always need music for their films. So like, there's so much opportunity for collaboration. Definitely keep an eye out there. My second tip, and this is probably the most valuable tip that I could give you in terms of studying music production at university, do a placement. Do a placement year in something you're interested in. I'm gonna come into talking head mode because this is serious. So we will be jumping back into Ableton in just a second, and sorry, Nav, I have clocked your question, and we will move on to that in just a sec. But as I say, I just want to address this question of music production at uni. Do a placement year. In between your second and third year, you have the opportunity to do a work placement. I cannot recommend it highly enough. So I did a placement in between my second and third year, working for Focusrite and Novation. Novation, who make the keyboard that we've been talking about. Focusrite, who make the audio interfaces, the Scarletts, Sapphires, Clarets, those kind of things. I was really lucky to get the placement, granted, but I was doing technical support, so answering phone calls, emails, live chats, and it got me a foot in the door at a company that I never would have been able to sort of just walk into on my own. And that is now why I have a job in the industry. I went back there after uni, and I'm now their like educational video person. They saw that I'd sort of started the channel, and it's really plain to see the people that did placements, or the people that showed up to lectures and put the work in, are now working in the industry. The people that didn't come to as many lectures, the people that didn't have their own projects going on outside of uni, aren't working in the audio industry. It's as simple as that. So you have to be doing stuff outside of just the course. You can't just show up to lectures, get a 2-1, and expect to walk into a job in the audio industry that you're going to be happy with, because it's so competitive. That would be my recommendation. Do a work placement, as much work experience as you can, and ideally a whole placement in between your second and third year, and that's going to set you up really, really nicely to be able to be employed afterwards. So I haven't seen any more comments as to sort of backgrounds to why you're going to do music production, because that, as I say, that might help me tailor it. But yeah, if you do want to stick any of that in there, we'll be happy to chat to you about that again. The other thing that I would recommend is use the equipment while you're there. They've got so much cool equipment, and not just audio stuff. So if, like me, while you're studying there, you decide you want to start a YouTube channel, they've got an equipment loan store. That's where I loaned a camera from film my first videos, and the guys in there are always really happy to help. So make use of the equipment that you've got there, because it's all absolutely brilliant. And yeah, that would be my advice. So say hello to Alex Baxter from me when you get there. It's really cool that you're on here and also going to Hertfordshire. That's really cool. Let's jump back into Ablesham Live.
We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna lay our love on the line.
It needs something else.
We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna lay our love.
Boom, boom. Just trying to work out what that something else is, but it definitely needs something. If anyone has any ideas, chuck them in the comments. Yeah, let's go on to Nav's question. So, what would be your tip to finish tracks? That's a really good question. I am not very good at finishing tracks. I think a lot of people struggle with that. There are 2 resources that I would recommend. Finish More Music. A chap called Keith Mills runs this channel, which is absolutely brilliant. He's got loads of tutorials. I think he's got a playlist on like a 6-part series on finishing more music. Or arrangement tutorials. Lots of good stuff in there. So flick through and have a look at the stuff that he's got in there. Get in touch with him. He's more than happy to talk to people. Oh, these headphones. I need to get that off my head. And also ELPHT. Here we go.
Hey everyone, this is Elephant. YouTube recently got in touch and asked me to contribute 10
It's being really laggy. Oh no, I don't want Tumblr. There we go. Copy this. Can I put this in the comments? Yeah, there we go. Finishing music. There we go. That's worth checking out. Essentially, beating perfectionism is one of the key things. I'm gonna have a go in here at laying out a bit of a structural arrangement. I'm probably only gonna go for about another half an hour or so. I know I said we were gonna do start to finish, but I've clearly overestimated my ability to actually power through and finish tracks. What's Rocco saying? I've been making music for about 60 years now, writing for about 8. I never knew anyone who could produce, engineer. So you've learned to do that. Okay, cool. So it sounds like you're going in with a fair amount of experience. Find the best person there for mixing. I'm trying to think who that would be from my experience. I know Chris Carter, Simon Morgan. So there's a lecturer there called Simon Morgan who's mixed for Massive Attack and loads of other people like that. He's mental, he's absolutely lovely, and he is a genius when it comes to audio software, mainly Logic. He likes to work in, and if you show a bit of commitment and show that you're sort of serious about what you do, then he'll be able to give you mixing, mastering advice. He'll be able to talk you through your projects and whatnot, and be a kind of mentor. So yeah, as I say, Simon Morgan is the person to go and have a chat to. Talk to Alex Baxter as well, who's the course leader, and he'll be able to point you in the right direction for certain things. But so by myself right now, I think I've found my sound, but I want to go into a uni setting to make friends, find like-minded people. Dude, 100%. This is it's expensive, obviously, and with all of the virus stuff going on, not even 100% sure whether unis will be going back in September. I hope they will, as long as it's safe to do so, but obviously play that one by ear. You get around so many like-minded people, people that I'm still friends with people to this day. There are a few people that went to Hertfordshire a few years ahead of me. As an example, Chris Pavey, who is now full-time master and engineer, masters for amazing people, who I met through the uni. You meet so many awesome people. Just network, find people outside of your course, and you're going to have an amazing time. Very much so. Enjoy. So, let's try and split this out into a few different sections. So, one of my favorite sort of little shortcuts in here is inserting time, or inserting silence, sorry. So, insert silence. Let's put 16 bars of silence in. There we go. So that's just going to give us a little bit more space to work with. Let's take that out for a sec. What have we got here? Don't really have a very closed hi-hat there, do we? What I sometimes do if my closed hi-hat isn't doing very well, oh, that's fine. That'll be fine. So I'm going to take my open hi-hat out for a bit at the start here. And the ride. Unmute that. Duplicate these out. So at the start of the track, you have what tends to be called a DJ lead-in, which is 16 to 32 bars of stuff where not a huge amount's happening. And the reason for that is it just gives DJs time to mix your track into the last track into your track, whatever way round. It just gives them that time to do that. So it might feel weird having 30 seconds of just that, but that's necessary for DJs. That's why in Spotify, you'll often see like an original mix and an extended mix. So the extended mix will have the lead in at the start and the end for mixing in and out. And that's 7.5 minutes long. And then the normal version, which is the one that you'd listen to if you were just listening at home, is considerably shorter. So unless you're a nerd like me, I like to listen to the extended mixes because I like to listen to how the pros like build their drums up. But yeah, you've got normal mixes and then extended mixes here. So that's just a bit of context around why we're going to be doing that. So let's start using some markers. Actually, that'll be a helpful thing to do. So I've just created a marker here. I'm going to write, and the way that I did that, just in case I did that a little bit too quickly, is set just up here. And that will put a marker in wherever you have the cursor. DJ lead in. Whoops, no, I don't want one there. Let's put that there. Okay, energy up. Sometimes I like to have the clap out of it actually, but the problem is I think my loop kind of has a bit of a clap in it, so that doesn't really work. Excuse me. Right. I've highlighted all of that. I want to duplicate that and create new space for it to go into instead of duplicating it over this stuff. So I'm going to, instead of just Command D or Control D, going to do Command Shift D. That's creating more space for it to go into, which is cool. Let's whack the open hi-hat in there. Give the people what they want. And unmute it, that would help. What I'm also going to do, now, here's a good point to address. What you can see here is that in some places, we've got these solid lines coming down on the kick drum track. Let's make that a bit bigger. And then also you've got these little lines up here. What that means is that we're just using a one bar loop repeated. This isn't particularly what we want, and here's the reason why. If I wanted to take these last two kicks out, coming into this little change, if I wanted to change that, and I take those out, it takes them out of everywhere, which is not what we want. So I'm going to undo that. And again, our old mate, the consolidate shortcut, is going to help us here. So consolidate, that's now an 8-bar clip. I could take these out. Actually, I don't think it's this one that I want to do. No, I want to do it here. So it's just paste this across or duplicate this across. Also going to start with a double kick. Doof, doof, doof. That's a nice little... Delete the last two kicks there. So let's have a listen to that. Let's make these claps a bit more interesting. It's a little bit boring at the moment. No, not rename. Let's consolidate. Oh, I've got the ARP on. That's why it's sounding weird. So, just going to put some more claps in here. Might be a bit overboard. Cool. It's a little bit more interesting. Let's duplicate this across. would the so Crazy Cuts asks, would the Novation Launch Key Mini Mark II work well with Ableton Live 9 standard? Yeah, absolutely. So the Launch Key Mark IIs were current at the time that Ableton Live 9 was current. So they integrate really, really nicely. We've actually just redone the tutorials for how to use the Launch Key Mark IIs in Ableton. So there are some really cool tutorials that my colleagues made to help you out with those. So yeah, that would work absolutely fine. You can see that it's starting to get a little bit darker through less light coming through there. Currently working on an album about climate change, our planet, and the relationship we have with it, but it's a double meaning project that can also be applied to relationships and loss. Wow, that sounds wicked, man. I'd be really interested to hear some of that stuff. If you, what I'd like to do is, the place that I connect with people most online is on Instagram. If you guys are Instagram users, it would be awesome to carry on the conversation on there. I'm going to be updating people on Instagram as to when I'm sort of going live again to finish off this project. I'm going to sketch out a little bit of an arrangement for the next sort of 15 minutes or so, take any more questions that people have, and then I'm going to tie it off, and we'll come back and do an arrangement session, arrangement and mixing sort of session. So if you're watching this now and you've got Instagram, go and grab me at The Audio Journey. And if you pop a picture on your story of this, I'm going to be reposting anyone that does that. So feel free to take a little picture of this, tag me in it at The Audio Journey. And I'll be reposting all of those to my stories. As I say, I'm really, really keen to carry on this conversation with you guys. That would be absolutely fantastic. So, as I say, it's been really, really good to have you guys here. Let's do a little bit more arrangement, try to flesh this out a little bit. As I say, it's the bit that I struggle with the most, to be perfectly honest. But we're going to try and get, as a wise man called Daniel said, we've got to get through this. So we will power through this arrangement. Give ourselves a little bit more space to work with and see what we can get done. Part of your Facebook group. Awesome. Really, really good to have you guys in there, and just communicate wherever we can. Is there anything that you can't do in FL Studio, I guess, sort of that we're doing here? The only main difference, I haven't used FL Studio very much at all, to be perfectly honest. The session view that we were working in through here is pretty unique to Ableton Live. Everything that we're doing in here, you can equally do in FL Studio. Cool. Right. Anyone hooking us up on Insta? Let's get a few Insta stories out there. That would be cool. Awesome. Let's pop back onto YouTube on here. We'll have a little bit of an arrange. And then we'll call it a day. So, what do we want happening here? That was sort of the energy up section, wasn't it? This is still going to be the DJ lead-in. Let's play through there. Let's catch up to live. Cool. This is still going to be the DJ lead-in. So maybe we can have like a little 8-bar breakdown here and then drop in and give us the bass back. So let's duplicate this stuff across, but not the kick. see what this string's saying. Where were we?
We gonna lay our love.
Okay, definitely not. Okay, so what I'm going to show you here is a few little bits of automation. I'm also going to add in a snare roll. So I'm going to create a MIDI track. Create a MIDI clip. Find us a snare sound. That's fine. Ugh. Change this to a 16th note grid. And then pencil tool again. Hold down Command and bring the velocity of those up. So let's put those down to little notes, and then we can use the release to make them longer. Yeah, there's a few little bits that I do here. Which program do you use? This is Ableton Live 10 Suite. There you go. But most of this will work in any version of Ableton. Okay, so you can hear at the moment, because the release is quite short, they're quite short, snappy notes. So let's drag this out.
We gonna
Okay, so how would I go about this? Something that I'd do, I would keep this outside the drum bus. I'm going to automate the volume of the drum bus. Let's close all this up. I'm going to automate the volume of the drum bus to come down a little bit. Audio effects, utility. I'll put this on the drum bus, and using a gain here, I'm going to bring it down maybe 4 dB. Whoops. So I'm going to highlight a section there, hover close to the line but not on it.
we gonna lay our
Cool.
love on the line.
Right. Obviously, we're not going to have all of this stuff coming in straight after the drop. Let's take all of this away. I only really want the bass coming in, to be fair. Let's get rid of this. don't even want the ride yet. So we're going to make that a much smoother transition. Going to do a few bits of this snare roll. So first things first, we're going to add in the groove file. And I'm going to play with these velocities. Gives it a bit of a feel. And I'm going to automate the release. From there. Let's have a listen to this. You'll hear the notes getting longer. Cool. That's sounding good. Also, I'm going to add auto filter on here. And do that. So I'm going to automate the frequency to come up. Start it there. Ugh. Cool. The next thing that we need to make this breakdown a little less like jolty, make it flow a bit better, is suspense. Some rises and effects. Cool. Living outside of the US or UK with massive electronic music culture, how hard is it to actually make it? The internet massively democratizes that for sure. You can be anywhere and get your music heard. In terms of touring, I wouldn't really be able to say. But in terms of getting signed to labels, you don't need to be in a certain location for that. And making it as an electronic music producer will mean different things to different people. But what I would say is that you can, getting releases on record labels is one of the main things that you want to be doing as an electronic music producer to progress and to get your stuff in front of more people. What you don't need to be in a certain place to do that. You need to submit your good music, get it noticed, and that's not based on location. That's done over the internet. So as long as you have an internet connection, you have access to that. And like you say, it's about making good music. But yeah, really cool question. Cool automation technique with the release time. Thank you. Yes, it makes it sound like a drummer sort of gradually playing harder and harder, which is a nice kind of human feel. And rises and effects are going to make this better. Let's put a double kick drum in there. No, I don't like that. Hello, Guarav. Yes, this, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. This is Ableton Live. Ableton Live 10 Suite, to be specific. Yeah, There you go. Cool. Risers and effects, that's where we were at. So, certain audio track. Brown is the color for these. Definitely going to turn the volume down because these always come out of the sample packs really, really loud. Let's just go in for some bog standard tool room. There we go. This is the classic kind of thing that we want. It's a bit too long though, so let's cut that down and fade it in. Kind of want the volume of these to be different, so I'm going to split the clip there. I want this to be a bit louder. Not enjoying that snare as much. Don't want as much low end in it. Cool, let's do a last little touch on here. I'm going to do a cymbal rise. And these are everywhere. There's one in drums, drum hits, and then effects hit as a reverse crash or something. Oh my God. That'll do. Let's get those a little bit closer together. There was a bit of a gap there. That's a bit crap. just going to find one last like rise and fall kind of sample. Then I'll show you sort of what we've got so far and what we've got to come back to when we do the second live stream, which is going to be all about arrangement. Oh, I didn't like the Toolroom ones. That'll do. Let's put a nice delay on that. What I'm going to do as well, cut these loops out for a bit maybe. Oh no. Okay, so let's have a listen from the start of where we've got to. And you'll see what we've got to come back to when we do the second live stream. So this has been just over 3 hours of live streaming now. And what I'm going to do is, as I say, play through this track. We've got the basics of a track down. We've got some like...
We gonna lay our love.
Let's stick the bass in there.
We gonna lay our love on the line. We gonna
Cool, so that's what we've got to work with. We're going to be arranging this into a full track, but for now, we've just got the loops together. We've got some drums down, a bass, some vocal stuff, some melodic stuff. We've got the ideas down now. We just need to arrange them. So let's listen from where it comes in with sort of energy up. We'll have a listen through till about here because that's what we've done so far. And then if you have any more questions that you want to get in before this stream finishes, fire them in now while we're listening through to this. But then we're going to be signing off, and I will be keeping you posted as to when part 2 of this stream will be going live. This will be available to watch later. This will be available just on my channel at any point. So feel free to come back and watch that whenever you like. And yeah, you don't actually have to have any tangible instruments to be able to make this kind of music. A lot of it is just using audio files called samples, which is what I've been using for all of the drum sounds, the vocal sounds. You don't need to play a bass guitar in to get a bass line and whatnot. It's it's pretty cool. So let's have that listen through. As I say, if you've got any questions, fire them into the comments now, and we'll be starting to wrap up after this listen through. Okay, so we've got a few elements down there. It needs more energy. It needs, it needs some sort of atmospheric bits, maybe a pad or some more melodic stuff. But that's given you an idea, hopefully, of how to get some bits down and get to this stage. The key bit is going to be the next kind of arrangement section that we do. So hopefully that'll be helpful for you. And yeah, I hope this has been an interesting session. I hope you've got your questions answered. And if you do have any more questions, feel free to fire them into the comments if you're watching this on the replay. Get in touch with me on social media at The Audio Journey on Instagram. I've also got a Facebook group, Music Production Explained. Feel free to dive into that. But yeah, it's been really, really nice to spend a little bit of time with you guys. If, as I say, if you have any questions, please do fire them over. But for now, over and out. Enjoy what's left of your weekends, and I'm sure I will see you guys again very soon. Take care.